Hello. So this is going to be a different video. This isn't going to be a video of a deck being played. This is going to be a deck being made. Cyber Exodus just came out, and over the last couple of days it's been added to Card Game DB, and DB0 has actually already made the plugin for it, which is pretty impressive. And so now I can play Cyber Exodus decks, and I want to. So the second Octagon tournament is still going on, the Board Game Geek one. And the videos of that, like, I'm uploading them to YouTube just to get it done, but I'm not going to make them public till the tournament's over. Or at least until me and all of my opponents are eliminated. You know, just so, out of respect for them, so their decks don't get leaked. But, I'll say already, my deck isn't that good. The last, like, 2 weeks I had to work on it, I was just kind of sick and busy, and I didn't touch it up much. And, I mean, it shows. And specifically, one of the big problems it has. Well, I guess I won't really get into that because I am still going to try to play the tournament and still try to win some games. But there are weaknesses in my deck, and even as I wait to play with it for the rest of the tournament, I want to get right going on some new deck ideas I've thought of. So what I'm going to do is like a complete start to finish of a deck where like I'm going to make a deck here in video and play at an octagon and show the changes. And it might be crappy, right? I might make a terrible deck here. I'm not an incredibly experienced deck builder. But this way you'll be able to see the process of like what goes into making a deck and like what the revision process looks like. Whereas with my other decks, I only showed them after I'd already tweaked them a bit. So I thought that'd be fun. So the first thing you want to do with a deck is think of the deck archetype. You don't want to just put in good cards because it's a good card. It's also a good card. Fnar, fnar, fnar. So my idea is essentially Haas-Bioroid with 15 points of Jinteki splash, all like damage. And one of the reasons is just it's funny surprise value. But that's not a big one. Because you always want to make your deck assuming the deck list will become public, because it will eventually. And if you're completely relying on the element of surprise, that's kind of a problem, you know. Maybe for a local tournament you can pull it out once in surprise, but if you want to get really good with a deck, especially in such a tactical card game as Netrunner, as opposed to a more strategic card game like Magic, you would just need to play it a bunch. And by virtue of playing it a bunch, the surprise value will kind of go away. And so the idea is I want it to be the kind of Jinteki things that make it harder to run on remotes early, harder to run on blind ice early, and basically use that to slow them down, make runners have that passivity they need to have in the beginning versus Jinteki, and then use that to get into my glorious Haas-Bioroid endgame. This is partly inspired by how great Neural Katana is. On Reddit, I've been a pretty big proponent of Neural Katana as one of the best early game ices, probably the best. And, well, for centrals, not remotes. Ice Wall is probably best for remotes. But people are saying, oh, so does your current deck run it? And my NBN deck doesn't because it just didn't work out with all I was trying to do. So I just really wanted a deck to use Neural Katana because it's really strong. And another big thing that just came up is Edge of World, which makes blank agendas, like blank scoreable agendas, so 3 cost or 4 with, you know, Biotic Labor or Rest Sensen or Trickle Light, but especially 3 difficulty ones, are a lot stronger with Edge of World now because you put a face down card and your agenda that you can score next turn and your trap look exactly the same. And in this same data pack, Haas-Bioroid got Project Vitruvius, which is freaking bonkers, right? And I'm sorry, I realized I have like some cards over on the left monitor, and I've been like looking at the left monitor this whole time and not the camera. I apologize. So Haas-Bioroid has Vitruvius, which is nuts. It's really strong, and it's a 3 for 2. So now HB can run a deck with that and accelerated beta test, and have 6 of these agendas that look exactly the same as Edge of World, which is really cool. And Vitruvius is just strong. Like I had said before, everyone but Haas-Bioroid had a guaranteed agenda. Like if you're NBN, run Astroscript or you're dumb. If you're Jinteki, run Nisei or you're dumb. If you're playing Wayland, run Project Atlas or you're dumb, right? And now you're running HP, play Vitruvius or you're dumb. And this is a shift away from the priority rec big ice, but that's kind of fine because emergency shutdown, what the fuck, just came up. That's its official name, is emergency shutdown, left parens, what the fuck, right parens. I play criminal, you guys know that. You so much. I'm sorry, we didn't need emergency shutdown. We didn't want it, we didn't ask for it. Please, don't blame me. So anyway, so we want Corp deck, we want to splash some Jinteki crap. Definitely 3 Edge of World and some Katanas. And probably some snares, too. But let's take it through the steps. First, we say we're going to make a Corp deck. Oh, yeah. You can build in Octagon. I don't like building an Octagon because this is way neater. What I do though is because the saving managing decks I don't really like on Card Game DB. I use Card Game DB to make a deck, and then I use Octagon's internal editor to like remove 2 cards, add 2 cards, kind of thing. But for the macro scale, you definitely want this. Um, so to start, we'll just grab our identity. We're gonna be engineering the future. Don't want to make a stronger together deck that's kind of like its own can of worms. And engineering the future is just really strong. And to start, we're gonna get our agendas out of the way. Just when you're making a corp deck, it needs to get done, so you may as well do it, right? You can delay it a bit if you think your agenda choice is going to influence the cards, but since there's so few agendas related to everything else, you should really decide your agendas first. Okay, so here's 6 of our points. Vitruvius, very easy. And ABT. So ABT is a little problematic. I used to only run it in dedicated ABT decks, like where you get like 25 ice or whatever, and because it can, mill agendas, and that's bad, bad, sad, sad, as Coco the gorilla in Whose Sign Language would say. But we're going to run it because we've got Vitruvius now, and we're going to run 3 archived memories, and hopefully that will be enough. There's also the benefit that Haas-Bioroid, like I said, the blank agenda's strong because their servers are strong, and now Edge of World. But Haas-Bioroid playing and advancing twice is also strong because of Aggressive Secretary. That was one of the big reasons they were the infamous big ice kind of deck before, because when you look at priority requisition, you play advance, and that's a priority rec that can be scored next turn, and there's also a secretary that trashes 2, and that's a very strong game as well. And the point is we can do that for our ABT, so that what we actually have is 2 actions to run archived memories or ice archives if we need to. So we're going to do it. It may give us, it's going to need some finesse to work, but it's better than the alternatives. And I think we want, now that emergency shutdown's in the game, we want a 5, like I said, not a 6, because the 5 has that really good play advance game, and 6s are just, it's a lot of effort, and I don't want to, I don't have the influence to splash a sand. I'm not making a big upgrade server. So I think we're going to pass on the upgrades, and we're going to go with Executive Retreat. Yeah, I think we're going to go with Executive Retreat, especially because there's a bit of a fun gimmick where it makes your hand really small, and if they run on a small hand, and you have, this is really niche, but it's really funny, so I'm going to point it out, and you have Vitruvius with a counter on it, you wait for them to successfully run, and then you use Vitruvius on a snare, and if your hand has only 1 card in it, they've got a half shot at hitting the snare. Or if, Gabe was running an empty hand with no possible access just for the money, then you get a guaranteed. It's funny. I doubt it's going to matter, but the Executive Retreats, I think, put us over, right? This is 6, and that'll be 9 for 21. And I think I want Retreat over Priority Rec. Because for Priority Rec, you put in the big ice like Giannis and stuff, and I'm just not convinced I really want to put really big ice in this deck now that emergency shutdown's in, Ooh, it's a hard sell, though, because, maybe they won't have shutdown, or maybe they don't draw it, It's hard to say between Priority Rec and Executive Retreat, actually. It's first big decision we need to make. Either way, we definitely, I think, want either of them over upgrades, since we need a Biotic Labor to score it in 2 turns. And, yeah. Well, plus if we ran this, we would need 1 Private Security Force, too, just for the points, and I really don't like PSF in this. Upgrades is just super great, though. It's really strong, the effect. But 6 difficulty, man. But now that I think about it, if Vitruvius gets counters, we have that, and we have archived memories to loop Biotic Labors. So we could even, have 3, discard them if we don't need them. The problem is, of course, then that Biotic Labor increased the cost to res this to 11 creds to score mandatory upgrades. Or 10, not 11, right? Because it's 6 credits to res and 4 of them. Yeah, to score it in 2 turns, it costs 10 creds. Which is just ridiculous. Yeah, they all have some advantages and disadvantages. The retreat, the priority rec, and the upgrades. I was almost just thinking flat out no upgrades, but the more I think about it, I think I could manage to work it in at the cost of having to run a 10th agenda that I just don't give a shit about and that I don't really like. So Upgrades is really strong, but really hard to score. Priority Rec used to be like the pretty odds-on answer, especially because with an ABT Priority Rec deck, you could just get away with a lot bigger ice than you normally would run. But now the issue is that emergency shutdowns in the game, and we're not going to be splashing things like archers. We're going to be splashing all Jinteki damage. A lot of, kind of go for attrition, cheap attrition over big fuck off lasers. And then executive retreat is just kind of it's just the 5 for 3 that doesn't have the attendant complications, and it's just got a really fucking sweet effect. So you want to let you draw that last agenda that you need or something. We're going to run executive retreat because I've never actually run an executive retreat deck before, and I want to have that fun. And also, there's just kind of some nice synergy with the fact we're running 3 Vitruvius and 3 Memories, where if we draw up a big hand, like we can have 2 drop to 7, discarding isn't as bad, and that snare thing. There's a lot of little things. I'm not like at all 100% convinced it's better than the upgrades or the priority rec. But there's only so long I can sit here hemming and hawing, and I want to try retreat out. I've never given it a shike, so we're going to run executive retreat for now, but that may change in future iterations. Okay, now you get the splash cards are what's happened next. Well, half of them. Because there's 2 reasons you splash. You either splash because that's your deck archetype. For example, when you say, I'm going to make a Wayland deck with 3 Tricks of Light and 3 Kaguyas. That's a pretty common thing people like to deck build. That's influence you put first. The other use of influence is just the fact that since some factions are better than things than others, there's also the idea of late splashing, where you don't splash till like the end of your deck building process. And that's the time when, like, if you have influence, you always spend it on Toll Booth, because Toll Booth's amazing for showing up weakness. We're very sad we're not going to run it here, but we want to go all Jinteki. So in this case, our splash comes first, because we're using our splash to define our deck. If you don't, then you want to use your splash at the end to find weaknesses and shore them up. So any Jinteki card. Okay, Edge of World, we're running 3. That's this deck. That's a big part of the deck idea, and that's 6 influence. We want katanas and snares, but they're both 2 apiece, right? That's 2 influence, and katana's 2 influence. So we can either go 3 and 1 or 2 and 2 on katanas and snares, and then we'll have 1 left, which we'll put on a Junebug. So we've got Junebug and 3 Asex, which makes our game of play advance pretty strong, which will help for both retreat and for overscoring Vitruvius. So we'll grab the 1 Junebug now. And do we want 3 and 1 or 2 and 2 for katanas and snares? And HP's got a lot of good sentries. So I think I'm going to say 2 and 2 on the katana and the snare. Okay. So that's our splashing is all done, and our agenda points are all done. And now basically we just put cards in with the caveat that we want at least 20 ice, and we're running ABT, so maybe even a little higher. Maybe something like 24 would be good, but we're going to play it by ear. So now we only look at HP neutrals. Now the next cards we put in are 3 hedge funds and 3 Melange Mining Corps. And the reason we do that is that winning the game is more fun than not winning the game, so we want the cards that you win with. I think it's just barely getting possible to skimp on Melange with, what's the new card called? The Pad Campaign, but for Corps. It's in here somewhere. I'll scroll and try to find it. But now that you can run all these other assets, maybe, but it's still just amazingly strong. And getting an early Melange off, pretty much just you win the game. Private contracts, that's what it is. That 5 trash cost is really neat, though. But it's not as good as Adonis for us, especially because when you run an upgrade, you can upgrade a server Adonis and put agendas in it when it's done, which is a really, really nice feature of it. I suppose the subcontract has that too, but you gotta spend clicks. So we want 3 Asex, we want 3 Memories, we want 3 Adonisai. Uh-oh. We pretty much need, we want to run 49, so we can only have 17, 19 ice if we do nothing. We might even need to cut back on this, and this is pretty much all we can have. Oh, which is unfortunate. We really want some troubleshooters and stuff too. So I guess we're going to have to dial down. Maybe the memory is down to 2. I feel bad about that because it makes ABT risky, but we filled up on cards awfully fast, so maybe. And I will put the ASEC down to 2. the threat of it will hopefully be enough it too. Chimera is kind of interesting. It gives you really, really strong melange protection early. Only Tinkering or Inside Job will let you get past it early, and otherwise, or Parasite, and otherwise just got to deal with it. But the trade-off for that is that you only get 5 a turn from Melange and not 7, because they can run on Chimera every turn, like it doesn't do anything bad. Oh shit, we don't have Biotic Labor in yet either. Suck a fuck, there are too many cards in the game. We don't have our Troubleshooters or our Labors that we want. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Does that mean we cut our snares and we spend that influence elsewhere? I really love snare. This makes me sad. Well, here, let's not make it an influence thing, but we were saying, let us actually go to 3 and 1 then. Because even with only one snare, we can still recur it. We can still bring it back with our memories and our Vitruvius into our hand to discourage them from that, and we need more ice. I want a couple troubleshooters. So let me try for now one Biotic Labor with the idea that maybe we try to loop it with our memories and our Vitruvius. Ugh. Whatever. But let's just we got to get some ice down now, and then we'll look at how much we've got and see what we want to change. So we're gonna switch just to ice for a bit because there's just too many cards. We're just kind of throwing in willy-nilly. We'll need to do some subtraction afterwards for sure. Okay, Wall of Static is a pretty easy include. We don't have Wall of Ice, so just the early fuck-off barrier that gets in their way and lets us play. Roto Turret's really strong, but I only want 2 just because when they get a Sentry Breaker, it's nil. So, Enigma is pretty much the best neutral piece of ice right now, and here's why. Code Gates kind of suck. We're going to go to our card list over here real fast, and we're going to say, alright, show me Code Gates. Okay. So here's Code Gates, right? Chimera is everything, so it's not a big deal. Pop-up window, you don't use breakers on. Tollbooth we'll get to in a second. Cell Portal is pretty crappy, and they gotta derez it, and you can just jack out afterwards. So it's just a really expensive, like a 5 cost each time into the run. Victor, you can break with clicks. Chum is really strong if you set it up right, but otherwise weak. Sensei, in contrast to Chum, is really meh. And Viper is trace. Like, the common theme here is that getting a decoder out, not really a priority. You need it for Tollbooth, but Tollbooth is so dangerous that a lot of people fem it or parasite it or shut down or deal with it some other way, right? You want one for Chum, but only if it gets a good setup. You don't really need it for Sensei or Portal. You know, you don't really need it for Victor. Maybe need it for Viper. You don't need the trade. The common, like, it's just not important. And Enigma is just the straight up, I'm a code gate, I end the run, you need a decoder. And if you don't have that, the runner can really skimp on getting their decoder. So Enigma is really strong because of that. And I'll probably, since I can't splash Tollbooth right now unless I change my influence around, I'll probably take a couple of Vipers. Yeah, just a couple of Vipers. Whatevs. Where are we at? 44. Heimdall is good. Ichi is good. And this is full. And we need to add more agendas to add more cards. And like, oh, I'm just not happy with this deck yet at all. There's just too many things I wanted to do, I guess. Well, because the reasoning behind the Troubleshooter is to frag them with the Katana, which would be really funny, or frag them like with brain damage. But looking at everything, as strong as Troubleshooter is, I just don't have the justification to throw in a Troubleshooter. So where am I at? 47. Could add one more ice for 19. That's still low though. Okay, we're at 5 barriers, 5 code gates, and 8 whole sentries. Ugh. We're gonna take out an Ichi because we have the katana. Ichi is really good, but when we're running 3 katanas, it's less important. You know, if I pop this out, I can run 1 Tollbooth, and I think, much as I love my damage splashing, now that my back's actually against the wall and I'm looking at what ice I'm putting in, You know, the damage and all that is fun, but yeah, toll booth is really good. Let's get a toll booth. Let's get one toll booth. Doot 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 doot. It's 15 again. Oh, I switched it from ice because I'm dumb. Yeah, we could throw in a Giannis just to play the lottery with our ABT, but we don't have priority rec, and like, there's just so many other things we want to do. 17. I could go up to 19 ice and grab a second labor. I probably want something more like 21, 22 in an ABT deck though, so. Let's see, so for barriers, let's grab a third Heimdall. He's a really good range, or if I get an accelerated beta test Heimdall, I'm really happy. But like Tollbooth, it's not unreasonable to res him on cost like it is like for Giannis. So we're at 666 now, and what's the run ending? The Katanas don't, but they're pseudo in the run, I call them. Where if they don't want to face check your ice, then after the first time, it may as well be end the run as much as it isn't. Like, yeah, this subroutine is do 3 net damage, but they're not going to willingly run on this server and not break the sub when you put it on a central and not a remote, you know? So it's not end the run, but they don't run on it when they can't break it, so. And then if it was end the run, it wouldn't make a difference, you know? So it lets them in the first time, basically, and that's it. So this is close to end the run. This is weak. Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm pretty much all end the run, right? Except for this Katana, which is pseudo end the run, and Ichi, which again, they're not gonna really go through if they can't deal with it, except for the early game when Trash Program doesn't apply. So I'm pretty good, nice meaty run ending. So I can throw in some kind of more esoteric ice if I want. Something like Hunter would be a good pick here if I gave a shit about tags, but I don't have any tag punishment. I'll probably be able to guess. So let's think. Maybe this is our chimeras then that we were talking about. That's for an early melange or whatever. They can you only get 5 from the melange instead of 7, but that's still a pretty goddamn good deal, you know. And yeah. And if you use it on an agenda, you can just not res it on times. And it does let you play a game where if you don't... Oh, I'm at 50, not 49. I missed something. What do I cut? Ice, not really on the table to cut. Could drop my memories to 2. That may be what I do. But then I have to either overscore Vitruvius or I've only got 2 shots to fish if the ABT goes sour. But I want definitely 1 snare at least so I have that available to loop. I need the 3 Edge of World because that's basically my entire game plan here. I want the June Bug because I need that since I'm only 2 secretaries. Just so I got enough of the threat that it's a half shot when I play Advance. Or no, it's a 3rd shot of Retreat, it's a 3rd shot of an overscored Vitruvius, and it's a 3rd shot of a June Bug ASEC. Not amazing odds, but I can manipulate them by blank scoring my Vitruviuses with my Edge of Worlds instead. So it's probably either our labor or our memories we want to cut. And of course, memory can loop a biotic labor for just an extra click. But then, of course, a click is exactly what it gets you, so you need to do it in advance. So, yeah. We'll just have to deal with it if ABT throws stuff in our archives. We don't have too many. Oh. I got a happy Valentine's Day link. I love you too. I think this may be a pretty solid first draft, but we're gonna give it a look. We got some nice stats down here and stuff. Looking at the strength of our ice, we got oh, not our ice, these are just our cards. 20 pieces of ice, little low for an ABT deck, but God, it's gonna break my fucking heart if I cut anything else, I think. And we can go a little weaker on ice because we're a little happier with them getting in to our servers with our Edge of World, June Bug, Sec. That's 6 things. Technically 7. I'm probably not going to be putting my only snare in the remote that often, though. Maybe once as a gimmick, but yeah. This is... Normally you run 3 snares, aiming to actually be dealing that damage and slowing them down. Here is mostly the 1 snare so that I can recur it with a Vitruvius or something and threaten it, or in a pinch threaten it in a remote. I think with our pain here, 20 ice is just barely enough. But of course, I just say that because I really don't want to cut anything else. You know, I mean, I guess, yeah, my money I don't want to fuck around with at all. I'm Haas-Bioroid. I gotta have money. Although I suppose money is a little less important because I'm running a lot cheaper ice than normal. But, I mean, money is still the greatest thing to have. Yeah, even though I am running surprisingly cheap ice, actually. I mean, what? 4, 3, 4, 3, 3, 8, 5, 8, 2. I kind of want to make my more expensive. I don't really see how, though, except for putting in... why don't I grab the 1 Giannis, though? Just for funsies. Just for lols. We'll take out what for it, though? I think people are getting more aware to the threat of Rototurret. Um, it's not getting nut shots nearly as often as it used. Because, like, I have it in my NBN deck, right? And I'm not getting that many nut shots when Rototurret's an out-of-faction splash. When you're expecting it, I think it's even less of a thing. So we'll throw in the 1 Giannis. We got a bit more endgame potential. Just because I just kind of thought about in the scenario when I do get all my money off, you know, what am I spending it on? So we'll get a bit. Of course, we're spending it to Biotic Labor Archive, you know, Biotic Labor, Vitruvius Biotic Labor, score shit. So here's our deck. I'm gonna call it Deck Alpha because I don't like naming the decks till I've seen how they played. So I give them names when they get a personality, and right now this doesn't have it. So it's Deck Alpha, and we'll see how it goes. It's a little low on ice than I'd like for an ABT deck, but maybe our high ambush count will make that work out. And maybe it'll be a catastrophic failure. Maybe you're saying to yourself, I know this will be a failure right now, but I'm going to play it on Octagon, so we won't need to guess pretty soon here. And then we'll edit it and go from there. And now I think I'm going to do a runner one immediately after this, so look in my YouTube channel or whatever, I guess.